I've recently started marketing a class called Agile in Sales and Marketing. And what I can tell you is the response has been pretty stellar. The response has been pretty good. We have a lot of organizations that are trying to understand the role of Agile and Scrum, especially in sales and marketing. So I thought I would do a special episode today talking about some techniques and some things that I've learned as a result of creating this course and as a result of doing lots of coaching inside of marketing organizations. Now, I've had the opportunity to really do some deep dive training and coaching in a few different really large organizations in the entertainment industry as well as in the finance and banking industry. And I found some really, really interesting statistics and things that I'd like to share with you. The first thing I want to talk about is market research. Now, market research, in my opinion, is a lot like archeology. I'm going to draw these two together. They're both designed to help you understand what happens in the past, but tells you very little about what's going to happen in the future going forward. In other words, it gives you a whole bunch of what happens, but very few why it happens. And I want to make sure I go on record and say I'm not trying to say that market research is useless or that we shouldn't do it, because that's not what I'm trying to say at all. What I'm trying to say is market research can only take us so far. Consumer research includes things like surveys, focus groups, in-depth interviews, ethnographic studies, joint shopping trips. There's lots of methods to get it out there. The results are usually only used by marketers. This is where I think it's a mistake. Oftentimes, they can use these results even rather, how should I put it, mechanically for pricing decisions or whether or not to launch an advertising campaign. But I think that we should lean in a little heavier on market research for strategic purposes. Now, for those of you who know me well, one of the biggest complaints that I have about the Agile framework is that people spend so much time focused on delivery that they oftentimes miss the ideation or discovery portion of what they're trying to build. So they emphasize delivery and release, but they don't lean in on the other side. This doesn't mean that we build a strategy based on the data. That's really rare. But the data becomes an invaluable source of what we do with regard to strategic insight. So if we're trying to plan for the future, sometimes we can yield information from that data that's going to help us plan better. Especially, and I've always recommended this, if the company's top managers take part in the process. If you have leadership or if you're in a small company and you find that they always want to have their thumb in a pie or skin in a game, you want to make sure that you get them involved. Now, Toyota and Covey for many years have done the 5 whys or the 7 whys. This is nothing new as part of the Agile framework, trying to understand the why. The problem is the why has become focused on why delivery was done this way, or what happened is the sector of focus where we focused on why a product was designed the way that it was, or why a consumer used a product a certain way, kind of went by the wayside. So I want to give you one example. So Adobe recently they've done a bunch of these, but they did a study not too long ago where they had participants participate in a quote unquote contest where you could get a free limited amount of time using Creative Cloud, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. But what they did is they made people agree that when you enter the contest to manipulate the image, that you're allowing Adobe to track how you went about doing it, what steps you took, and what tools you used. Adobe wasn't trying to just find out who knew how to use the product or where they clicked. That's important. Where they clicked was important, but they were trying to use it so that they could see whether consumers understood why the product was built the way it was and if they were leveraging it to the best of their ability so that they can make strategic decisions going forward about things that people either are uninformed about or things that people didn't even know how to use. And I think the bonus of it all was that no matter how good or bad your image turned out, you still want at least a small amount of time with free Creative Cloud. And what that means is that now they've given you that first hit so that you can, continue to desire to use their product. So I think that when you're precisely using information to focus on strategy, which is most often the overlooked part, you can start answering some of the why questions. And if you analyze conversations with consumers, you can start to better understand their needs. And more importantly, you can figure out their fears, their dreams, their phobias, their biases, and you can see whether people really know what your product or service does and and how to use it. I mean, I know that sounds kind of silly, but what better way to find out if somebody knows how to use a system, a product, or service than to have them use it and observe what their usage was. And I think that that will reveal a treasure trove of strategic insight for you going forward when you make decisions about what you're going to do with your product and how your product sits in the marketplace. That's going to do it for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have a question about how strategic insight works and how marketing makes a difference, you can feel free to reach out to us at learnmore@agiledad.com. We've got lots of really, really cool sales and marketing agile things that are coming up, including some workshops. So take a look at the calendar. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.